So I don't know what you've been set up for or expectation wise, but we generally just start yapping. Talking about
great.
Whatever. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. So I'm curious, what's exciting in your world right now? What's going on? Just personal, business, doesn't matter?
Yeah, so a little bit of a unique dynamic. So Screamin Mimi's is a company I bought 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. I bought it from the founders.
Okay.
They started the company in 1993 in Lexington. And my brothers and I grew up just eating the product and kind of became massive fans of the salsa.
What was your favorite one at the time?
At the time, they had the original,
Okay.
which is our mild today,
Mm-hmm.
what would be known as our mild, our sweet hot salsa.
Got it.
And, we'd come home from school or sports and just devour it.
Yeah.
And just kind of always part of our family, right? And you can see it on our website, but, like every family, you've got these staples. I'm sure your family had the same kind of cookies or waffles, whatever you ate every morning. And it was just always in my mom's kitchen, and so we'd always eat it. And anyway, fast forward, just got really excited about an opportunity to buy the business and kind of reshape it and reposition it in the vision that I had for it, and that was 5 years ago. So it's been, like a lot of small businesses, a great challenge. Some days you're super excited and on top of the world, and other days you feel like you have no idea what you're doing. Yeah. Right? But it's been a really fun thing. I would say what I'm excited about, to your question,
Mm-hmm.
what's really exciting is I don't live here. I grew up here, but I live in the DC area.
Okay.
So I'm a remote owner, which comes with a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
What's been most fun for me is just reconnecting with this community and being a part of this community, the business community, the small business community, the support we felt, and then the partnerships we've been able to build, right?
Yeah.
So like doing a sponsorship with UK Athletics. It's a great one to start with. I'm a huge Kentucky fan.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody here is. Having a business that we position and align with UK, which kind of runs the town, has been a really exciting thing.
Yeah.
And so examples like that
that's cool.
have been really fun for us.
So you get to a position where you can buy a business.
Yeah.
And, I don't know what you bought it for. It doesn't really matter at this moment. But, I'm sure there were other comparable price companies out there.
Yeah.
Why did you land here? Why were you like, you know what, salsa? I think that's it.
Yeah, I kind of felt like at the time, one, I obviously really believed in the product and thought it had some differentiation. It's a sweet heat is what we call it. Mm-hmm. And, everybody out there is competing on heat.
Yeah,
today.
We were talking about hot ones before.
Yeah, right. And it's kind of fun to have something that honestly has a little bit more of a flavor profile, and we thought that was different. Secondly, I felt like it's a very competitive landscape, a lot of sauces, a lot of hot sauces, but didn't really feel like anyone out there was aligning it with their community, especially a community like this that loves to support small businesses and wrap their arms around it. And two, just really felt like we could be in a position to find partnerships, align our brand with other brands that we respected. Brands in town over the years like McGee's, right? Like Distilled.
R.I.P.
Yeah, I know. That was a tough loss for us, for everybody. But, growing up here, I had in my mind, okay, these are 15 or 20 small businesses I'd love to align with. And, sometimes that's just a marketing opportunity. It's cool for you to see our hot sauce in McGee's, right? Yeah. For example. And sometimes it's revenue. And so kind of balancing that, but really feeling like we could embed ourselves in this community and be kind of Lexington salsa was kind of the goal.
And obviously you're talking so heavily about community is a differentiator for such a congested space.
Yeah.
So, how do you stay competitive in a congested? I mean, you're obviously talking about community, but above that, what else is there that can keep you top of mind to a customer?
And that's a challenge, right, for a lot of small businesses. You're talking about a 5-year period where, for example, the month we launched our new website, we have a full e-commerce platform. You can order our products all over the country. The month we launched it was March of 2020.
Great.
So you're thinking about, you're
you
sitting
did
there.
not make your money back. Or did you make your money back?
No, well, you're sitting there thinking about, I've just made this huge investment. We worked with Bullhorn, a local branding agency, reshaped our whole website, our label, our logo. Excited to launch it. The previous owners didn't do any online business. It was one of the revenue areas I thought we could grow.
Yeah.
COVID hits and a little bit of panic, but then you realize how fortunate we were that people immediately started ordering everything to your door. I mean, if you looked at your own Amazon history in 2020, you were having a lot of stuff delivered to your house. And we kind of fell into that groove for people. And 2020 is still probably our best online year we've ever had in terms of sales. So a little bit of luck in terms of just how consumers were thinking about buying products at that time. And then also grocery stores never closed. You think about how many small businesses, closed their doors in 2020.
Yeah.
And for us, grocery stores never closing meant we at least had kind of a ground game that stayed alive with Kroger and Whole Foods here in Kentucky that really helped kind of buoy us through a pretty challenging, phase.
Yeah. So what was that like trying to stay in with them? Because I would imagine for the same reason you just said they never closed.
Yeah.
They were that essential and central to our lives during such a crazy period that I would imagine shelf space became even more competitive. The pricing may have increased. I don't know. I didn't look at any of that, but
you're right on it. And it's still a huge challenge for us. I mean, I don't at all mind sharing that and opening up about that. I mean, we are a small business trying to get leverage with national grocery stores. It's a pretty hard, it's a pretty big hill to climb. And while Kroger and others support local and do a really nice job, we're in the Kentucky Proud section of Kroger. Well, that's great. And we love the Kentucky Proud, association and membership, but we're not in the main salsa aisle. So right there tells you everything you need to know about the dynamic. And we've been fighting for 5 years to try to get moved to the salsa aisle so we can be next to
Why do you think they don't do that?
It's a volume thing. I think we need to showcase that we've sold X amount of salsa per week, per month, and moved enough units to get into that space. And while we do really well, I mean, our Kroger distributor places an order once a month, and it's not a small order. I mean, it's probably 100 cases of salsa, and they move through it, and the next month they order again. But when you think about Tostitos, when you think about some of the national brands, it's hard to do that kind of volume.
Right.
And it's something that I've battled with the grocery stores a little bit to say, it's great you're supporting local, but if you want to give us a fighting chance and level the playing field, we got to be in that aisle.
I got to see my label next to their labels.
Yeah.
And it can't be like, oh, well, the special aisle is over here right. If you want to go see that.
Exactly.
Like,
and
it's friction to seeing you.
And it's where you buy your chips, and it's where your mind is going when you're like, I'm going to get some chips and salsa as I head to a tailgate or a game day watch party or whatever. And you're right. We need to be in there and then let the consumer make the decision. Do you want $1.99 Tostitos or do you want a $4.99 Screamin Mimi's? We are a premium product, but we're a local product. And I think people would make that decision more times than not to say, I'm going to support Screamin Mimi's.
Yeah. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it's the revenue that each one is willing to provide.
Well, and they have national schematics, right? Like mapping of the stores where every product's going to go. The real exciting thing for us right now, just to go on to a side here, if you don't mind, is Publix coming to Kentucky.
Yeah.
We are approved in Publix, which was huge for us. The first Publix opened in Louisville January 1, so about 5 months ago. And we've been doing some nice business in there. But again, we're in their version of the locals aisle. Yeah. So that'll be our own journey there with Publix to try to get into the chip and salsa aisle. But, if you read all the news and the press, a lot of Publix is coming to this area. A couple are going to open later this year, and we want to grow with Publix. And we're hoping that because that's a new relationship, we can more quickly get into that main chip and salsa aisle. We've been in Kroger for 30 years. It's kind of been the hill we've always been climbing. And Kroger's been great, don't get me wrong, but that's our goal is getting into that aisle.
Yeah. What other kind of partnerships are you looking forward to or seeking?
I think the one we're seeking right now is probably around our pepper sauce. So a cool story, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
We had a letter of intent signed with the founders to buy the business, and we were doing due diligence. And that's a big word for basically I was rooting around their basement where they ran the business, just trying to figure out what was going on.
Yeah. Find the skeletons.
Just, and being taught by them about what the business was all about. Really kind of a learning phase for me. That was what due diligence looked like. And one of my brothers, we were in their basement kind of mining through some documents and things, and we stumbled upon this old pepper sauce. It might have been 8 or 10 years expired. And we asked the owner about it, and he said, yeah, they had tried this product for a while and it didn't really take off, and so they shelved it. And so we asked to taste it, and even though it was, a decade old, my brother and I tasted it and just fell in love with it. And so we very quickly added that.
So is this now aged salsa?
Yeah, that's right.
Is that what we're doing?
Bourbon
We're
barrel
aging?
aged. Yeah. And so we added that quickly to the transaction, to the letter of intent, and acquired the rights to this pepper sauce that had been dormant for a while. Well, we completely rebranded it, rebuilt it, repositioned it, relabeled it, and it's been one of our most exciting and fastest growing products. So we have the 3 salsas, mild, medium, and hot, and now we have this kind of other product out there that people are really responding to. And so what I'd love to find this year is people we can partner with specifically on the hot sauce because of the response we're getting, especially outside of Kentucky. Our first 5 years, our business plan was all about just dominate Kentucky, drop a blanket on Lexington and become the #1 salsa.
Yeah.
And now, our aspirations are changing in this next 5 years as I think about kind of that inflection point of where we might go in the future. And outside of Kentucky, online, when we give it to people in DC, the response to the hot sauce has been tremendous. And so I think there's an opportunity to try to build almost a separate business there.
Yeah. When you look for partnerships, what are you looking for from the leadership and the individuals behind it, but also the brand power behind who that is?
Like any small business, if it's free, it's a great partnership, right?
Yeah.
If there's a little bit of...
It still depends though, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Still depends.
Chefs, I would say local chefs.
Okay.
We've got a couple of really nice partnerships with some local chefs that will use our product in their menu items and in their recipes. And that's been awesome. That's really fun to go to a restaurant in town.
Do they put it on the menu or anything?
Yeah, some of them will kind of put a little asterisk on the menu,
Okay,
right?
Cool.
That's a nice touch. And so that's really fun to go to a restaurant and order a dish and see our product kind of fused into it. I think really we've been pretty conservative about who we align with in terms of, I mentioned McGee's, growing up here, I had kind of a vision of how I wanted to control our brand and not get too loosey goosey with it and not, I wanted to be aggressive, but I also wanted to align with brands that I knew people in town respected,
right?
That had real roots in this community, that weren't just kind of faking it. And so we've stuck pretty true to that core. Like if you and I aren't going to go there for lunch on a regular basis, then I'm not really thinking about it as a marketing opportunity.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious. I was just thinking about Will Levis and some of the strange things that he was up to with mayo and bananas and whatnot. Yeah. Are there any NIL opportunities to get in with students that maybe they're just really into salsa or I don't know. I have no idea.
It's a great question. We did one NIL partnership with a women's basketball player. Mm-hmm. Her name was Blair Green. She's from Kentucky. She graduated a year ago. And that was kind of an experiment that we tried. And it was great because she was from Kentucky. Again, she could back it all up, right? We weren't just aligning with any athlete. It was a Kentuckian who liked our product, who was a great supporter of it and did a lot on social media. That kind of expanded us into supporting women's basketball and women's volleyball, which we've done and really enjoyed. And if you think about it, many of the shoppers going into Kroger, Whole Foods, Critchfield, some of the stores we're in, if I think about my own experience, it's a parent going into the store. Maybe let's assume it's a mom going to the store grocery shopping, wanting to buy Screamin Mimi's. Well, you take that to supporting women's basketball. It became a really important thing for us. And we kind of found this weird, fun foothold of, we're going to be the company that supports women's athletics. At a time 2 years ago, so this is before Caitlin Clark.
I was going to say, and now you got to
you think about where it is now. And so that's been, you're always kind of surprised when you're in this world of small businesses of when you pull a thread, what it might become. And that was an opportunity for us. That was pretty cool.
So at the time, why women's sports? If it was before it was cool.
Yeah. One, again, my point about our average buyer and consumer and thinking about that. And then two, at the time, the men's sports the price points were above our head. I mean,
Yeah.
sure, we would have loved to have had Will Levis or Oscar Tshiebwe, but that's not happening for us.
Do you feel like you really get an ROI from athletes of that stature? Because a lot of times it feels like, oh man, we can afford that athlete. Maybe the athlete doesn't even believe in your product, has never had your product, but they're willing to take the check because it's money.
Yeah.
And you want the association just because of the eyeballs. But I'm just always kind of curious, and I don't know if you have any feedback of other people's stories or whatnot, but like I've not seen people really talk about the ROI of those engagements.
Yeah.
Like it almost feels like something to hang their hat on, like an achievement. Oh, we got Oscar Tshiebwe.
Yeah, it's a
It
very
didn't matter that there was an ROI or not. It was just the ability to say we engaged that person.
Yeah, there is definitely a badge of honor in that. We've had a lot of pride when we were partnering with Blair. It was a cool thing to talk about. I think it's still, NIL is still in its infancy, probably too soon to actually quantify the ROI. It's a great question. I mean, for us, it's wonderful for more eyeballs to get on our product, for us to raise our visibility, for us to add followers on Instagram, for us to drive more traffic to our website. But if it doesn't convert to people purchasing jars, it doesn't really matter.
So how did you track that?
Yeah, that's what we've tried to get better at tracking this last year or two, being a little more data driven with our business, because I come from a sales and marketing background. In my other life, I'm in sales, and so I always think about the cool, shiny, fun stuff. Yeah. And obviously, being a Kentucky fan, I'm like, sure, let's partner with Will Levis.
Yeah.
You always have to catch yourself and remember, is that going to translate to people buying our product? Yeah. And I think we felt like NIL did a great job raising the visibility of our company. I think in that one example, one beta test, we didn't really feel like it converted to product and purchasing.
Are you just looking at like a P&L at the end of a period?
I'm just looking at kind of year over year. So
okay,
to give you kind of a specific example, in 2022, we went on a huge marketing spending spree. We spent more than we probably should have, but we really had this vision for this women's sports concept, for other sponsorships like a Railbird, for example. By the way, great weekend to be in Lexington with Kentucky baseball and Railbird.
Yeah.
But we spent a lot of money, I think, intentionally and strategically, and we kind of built a budget and a plan in 2022, and we went out there and we had a lot of fun. And I was on the court at a women's volleyball game, and we're doing giveaways in the stands at Memorial Coliseum and all this fun stuff. And then we pull the sales numbers at the end of the year, and there's a slight increase, but it's not dramatic enough for me to say that was worth it. So last year in 2023, we cut all sponsorship spending other than one, which is Eastern Little League, which is Ecton Park here, where I grew up playing baseball and all my nephews play today. We kept that, but that's a pretty nominal deal. And we went the other way. We went just into grocery stores, like grassroots. We had our own custom displays built, put in the aisles, put in that salsa aisle, the chip and salsa aisle. We just went kind of old school, get in with the store managers, get our kiosks in the chip and salsa aisle, really do tastings. We did tastings once a week around town at grocery stores. So all these things cost $0, but put us out in front of our consumers and customers. And we found that actually translated more to the ultimate ROI of our people buying salsa.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how you play that.
What do you think was more in those examples? Was it a display and bringing sort of like a presentation to the person that happened to walk down the aisle?
Yeah.
Was it the, hey, try this with a chip? Was it that moment?
I think
Which
both.
one did it?
I'd like to think 2022's sponsorship spending spree, I'll call it, set us up for success in 2023 because more people knew about us. And then in 2023, you could actually find us. You could actually touch the product. So we were sampling, and we had these displays in the chip and salsa aisle. So now we are indirectly competing with Tostitos and everybody else.
Yeah.
So if you're walking down that aisle, grabbing your chips, looking at what salsa, you look over and there's our branded display. I think that made us more competitive in the space.
So it sounds like you didn't waste that 22 period. That was an awareness
Kind
moment.
of a building block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so now what? Do you do a combination of both?
Yeah, that's honestly just to kind of be vulnerable about it. That's exactly what we're talking about right now. This summer is kind of 5 years to the day since we bought the business. I had a 5-year business plan. We've done a lot of those things. Some of them totally failed. Some of them worked really well. And now we kind of need to reimagine and build the next 5-year business plan. And so our team, that's what we're working through this summer. That's exactly where you find us right now, thinking about things like I mentioned, the hot sauce as its own kind of product line. Thinking about different partnerships we can find, like Publix, where there are huge opportunities that we need to push into and lean into. Thinking about, frankly, what hasn't worked. Is there anything we would divest of? Is there anything we're just not feeling that fits in the future of the company? We only have 4 products, so that's probably not the case, but I'm just giving you an example of kind of where we are.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious too. 22, you go through all of that, you look at it and you're like, I don't feel like we had enough lift here. How do you know that's the moment to cut it versus we just haven't given it enough time? How do you make that determination?
Well, and keep in mind, some of that is a personal commitment, right? As a remote owner with another full-time job, something I'm really passionate and committed to as well in its own right, it's also just a gut check of what do I have in me? And while we have a great team, we've been really blessed to have a number of UK Gatton School of Business students work for us over the last 5 years, and kids getting their MBA, seniors who want to learn entrepreneurship and get into business. So that's been a cool thing. So I feel responsible to them as well, but it's a bit of a gut check of how does this fit in our life? We have 3 kids. How does this fit in terms of me coming back to Lexington as much as I need to? And you have a lot of great entrepreneurs and small business owners in this room. You kind of have to be obsessed with what you're doing. It's kind of a full-time deal. It's not a part-time deal. Yeah. So for me, it's a little bit of how many nights and weekends outside of my other job do I have to give to this? Even flying home last night to do a couple things this weekend here like this, you're thinking about that. Time away from your family, time away from your day job. And so part of it is just thinking through really strategically and hopefully really in a smart way. Here's the plan. Here's what we'd love to do. And then what can we do? What are we capable of doing? Yeah. And so we've thought about, even to a degree, a partnership of someone in town that could kind of be
pick up that slack.
Almost
not the slack, but
we own 100% of the company, my wife and I, but would we take on maybe a minority partner, someone that is here every day and kind of a general manager who would have a stake in the company? I'm a big believer in that, giving them some ownership. So that may be something we pursue this summer, and thinking about finding someone that can kind of just be here every day and be obsessed and wake up every day thinking about Screamin Mimi's, which you really need. And I think that's, I'm answering your question to say, I think we've gotten to this point at 5 years, and it's been a lot of work. Yeah. It's been really, really enjoyable, but do I have another 5 years of that grind in me without maybe partnering with somebody or thinking about that?
Yeah. So you talk about bringing somebody on. So I'm thinking about hiring. How do you get somebody, whether it's in that role or something much lower, how do you get them excited to come and work in food and beverage, really? And specifically like salsa, like you own it. So of course you love it and you live it, and it does things for you financially in your life and that kind of thing. How do you bring somebody in that doesn't have that kind of need for it? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah. I mean, every employee we've had has been between 21 and 28. And so I don't even talk about the food space. I talk about, if you want to be a part of building a business, if you want to have an experience where you are, you're doing everything that we can possibly do to build this business: sales and marketing, logistics, operations, website, branding. I mean, it touches so many things, like every small business does. And so I really pitch it when I interview kids or bring people on, about just having this amazing experience of knowing what it's like to be on the ground floor of trying to build a business. Yeah. How hard that is, how challenging that is, how creative it can be. So I talk about salsa, honestly, way down the road in that conversation. It's really appealing to their entrepreneurial spirit and how they might think about what this might look like on their resume. And I know it's probably a transition role for a lot of the people we bring in. They're going to get their MBA and they have bigger aspirations. And I'm totally cool with that. And it's really fun when they get that next job and they say, talking to their new employer about the Screamin Mimi's experience, whether it's a law firm, whether it's, a marketing job somewhere, it really shows you that the salsa part of it doesn't even matter as much. It's giving them these tools they need to be successful. And that's fun for me.
It's like the Truett Cathy thing with Chick-fil-A, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they talk about high school kids coming in here and it's, yeah, sure, chicken's involved, but this is sales. This is customer service. You're learning how to be a person, a fully fledged adult.
No, that's right.
In a professional world.
Yeah, responding to emails of customers, a jar breaks in transit and they've got to respond to that and how we respond. And yeah, it's really an opportunity to kind of impress upon them the right way to do things, the right way to deal with people, what a business should look like. But I also really rely on them. I mean, I'm not here all the time, right? So I'm saying to them, well, how would you solve that problem? How would you fix it? And then really you're looking for self-starters who are motivated, who you can count on. I'm not here. I don't know if they're working from 8 to 5 or not. And I don't have time to worry about that. So I need people that are trustworthy. I need to know that when they stand up in front of a grocery store and they're behind a tasting table, that they're going to represent our company and our brand really well. Yeah. If they're at an event at a holiday market, if they're at Railbird, wherever it is, how are they representing us? I've got to trust that. And so I'm running them through a pretty tough kind of vetting process, but pretty quickly you can tell who's excited about this entrepreneurial idea.
Yeah.
They don't need a lot of guardrails, right? When you meet people and you can tell they need like the handbook and they need the rules and, and we don't have that. We don't have a handbook, right? Yeah. We need people that immediately come in and they just start to own some stuff. And that's been really fun for me to find these young people that have that kind of motivation.
Yeah. Yeah. That's gotta be difficult to be in DC and to have that kind of trust in. Do you ever get tempted to micromanage in a way because you're like, I really need I need this particular moment or this event or this quarter to pan out really well. Do you ever feel yourself trying to get heavy-handed and have to pull yourself back?
Yeah, I don't know that I have time to micromanage every aspect of the business, but I would answer it and say the big ticket items, the strategic business plan, a partnership, for example, I still want to control that. But what we've tried to do is find 5 or 6 people that can just own an aspect of the business and I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I'm here, right, is our PR partner and agent, Sass in the Bluegrass, right? Miranda does a great job of setting up opportunities like this for us to, talk about our business. She completely owns all of our PR and all of our social media. She has the ability to post on our Instagram account. So talk about giving up control. Yeah. Right? She is posting freely on our Instagram, and I trust that she will have good content, have interesting content, align with what we want to say. Sometimes I'll approve it pretty quickly, but most of the time she's just running. Yeah. I can think of 4 or 5 examples like that where we have found people that can just execute.
Because you need that, right?
We need that. The online business.
Free up that brain capacity a little bit to do something else.
The tasting team. We've got a couple people that all they do is schedule tastings in stores, build relationships with store managers. Yeah. I don't touch that. I might tell them, here's how I think you could set up the table, or here's the angle because this is the type of event. Yeah. But they're running with it, right? Yeah. Logistics, the website, people that are, it's like a fulfillment center, right? We have orders every day coming in online that have to be shipped out, and that's just blocking and tackling. They're just packaging the order, shipping it out with UPS, and here we go. Yeah. I don't touch any of that, and I don't have time to. So
how do you get to that point? Because I know a lot of small business owners, they struggle with letting go and delegating and not micromanaging. We got to do it this way. We have to do it this way. Yeah. How do you let yourself go?
I think probably just a look in the mirror 2 or 3 years in where I realized it wasn't sustainable. I was coming back once a month feeling like nothing good's going to happen with this business unless I'm doing it, and just realizing it wasn't sustainable and it wasn't even what's best for the company. that what was best for the company is finding people, like I just mentioned with Miranda, people that I could count on that would just own it and they would drive it every day. And all these people, by the way, are part-time, right? They all have other pursuits, other jobs, MBA programs, whatever the part-time designation you want to provide it. But in that 20 hours a week or whenever they're working on it, they're all in on Screamin Mimi's. And so it was really more about just trying to build a team that would show up for us like that, show up for me like that. So I didn't always have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And that's how we tried to pivot. And that probably happened in our third year, maybe 2022. And that was helpful for sure.
So away from the business.
Yeah.
You got 3 kids.
Yeah.
How old are they?
14, 11, and 2.5.
Okay. So a little bit of a time period in there.
And the little guy.
Yeah.
The little guy, I did not want to bring to the studio. I didn't feel like he would be constructive to this conversation. He would be up on that table funny. Right now.
I have a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old. So
yeah.
I'm kind of curious from a parenting perspective. Yeah. What have you learned in that 14 years? Because you got a 14-year-old that's now 14 and one that's 2.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some wisdom and some time and things that have changed in you in that period.
Yeah, so actually even more than you would think. So the older 2, 14 and 11, are my stepchildren.
Okay.
The little guy is obviously mine. And so I'm 2.5 years into actually being a parent.
I understand.
But many more years into being sort of a step parent. And that comes with its own unique challenges and dynamics. I'm sure you've got some friends that are stepdads or stepmoms. But yeah, it's an amazing learning curve personally. And I take a lot of pride and value in being a stepdad first, because when you're a step parent, I kind of describe it as you're always in the passenger seat. You're never really driving the car.
Okay.
You're kind of behind your spouse, always supporting her, always making sure that you've got her back. And then you're kind of like this troubleshooting employee that's like running behind all the kids, making sure that they've got their cleats for Little League, they've got their backpack for school. You're kind of in the background, right? Like the guy behind the guy, making sure everything's getting done. And you can't always be as instinctual as you might with your own kid about discipline, about go to your room. You've kind of got to be a little more soft.
Because it's filtered. I mean, I guess every relationship would be different in how you decide to work with that dynamic. But you got to filter it a little bit.
You do. And everybody we talked to, whether it was parenting counselors or other step parents, the advice was to sort of play that role, that you're supporting your spouse, you're leading by example. So a lot of the parenting I do with them is just how I show up in the world. It's leading by example, being a good person.
I think that's how every parent parents.
Yeah, how you treat people.
Whether you intend to or not.
Exactly, kindness, right? And curiosity and all that stuff. And bringing them back to Kentucky and letting them see how my family navigates, my 3 brothers here in town, all their kids, seeing how we exist together, and the kindness and the support and the love. And so a lot of it is just kind of being around their lives.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not in it every day with them, but you're just not in the same mindset. You're sort of always catching yourself. Is that a smart thing to do or say? And now here I go. Whereas with your own kid, it's all instinctual, right? You don't, especially at 2.5, you're not always thinking. You just know that's wrong. Go to your room, right?
Yeah.
And so it's been fun to now apply it to him at 2.5. All these tough lessons of being a step parent to how I want to parent him. And again, as I said, I feel really lucky to have had that time as a stepdad and really have to reflect on what are my values, what are my principles. Everybody will tell you, pick 2 or 3 things to be really consistent about and hold the line. And don't worry about everything else. Don't sweat the small stuff, right? So I think it's made me hopefully a better parent for him, for the little guy.
See, I love acting on instinct a lot of times, but sometimes I do wish I was a little bit more like, okay, let me think through this for a second.
Yeah.
I'm a very heady person, kind of overthink things anyway, but I'd be kind of curious in that dynamic of what are you learning from the step relationship that you're bringing to the biological relationship that's, improving that. This has turned into a whole parenting
I love it.
situation.
I actually love talking about it. My wife jokes that I should write like a step parent book, because all the time I'm really thinking about the balance of how you show up for them. And you don't want to blur the lines. I don't have a mindset in the morning that I'm a stepdad. I wake up and these are our kids and this is our house.
Yeah.
Right. And we're a family unit and let's go out into the world. So it's actually, the more of those walls you break down, the better. But you also have to catch yourself at times to know your role and know where you're at. And so it is a challenging dynamic, but it's one that's been really fun and obviously, makes you really think about how you show up for kids every day.
Yeah. I'm curious, how does any of that inform what you do at work? Because I'm sure it's got to, right?
Yeah.
They're people in relationships, no matter who they are.
Absolutely. And it's also a reminder of time management, right? With 3 kids and 2 jobs, you want to make sure that your priorities are in the right place. And so that's always a constant challenge, as I was mentioning earlier, thinking about the next 5 years of this business. Well, we're going to have 2 kids in high school in the next 5 years. We're going to have a little guy going from 2 to 7. These are pretty transformative times in those kids' lives. And last thing I want to do is not be present and not be available because I'm, grinding on something more than I should be. So for me, it's really important to be committed to Screamin Mimi's, but it's also really important to find that balance and that quality of life, right?
I'm sure one challenge might be you're looking at that 5 years and going, okay, 5 years is coming up real fast. I don't want to do anything that short changes what the business really needs, though, for it to be successful, so I can walk away a little bit more and hire somebody.
And I say 5 years intentionally because I don't think any small business should be like, let's run it till Christmas and then we'll see where we are. Because then you're not really all in. You're not fully committed. And we said when we bought it, we wouldn't make any decisions about the business for 5 years. We're not going to worry about the P&L. If we're in the red, if we're making a little money, we don't draw a salary from it. All the money gets reinvested into the business. And so our goal was just do everything we think the business needs for 5 years and then kind of see where we are. Well, here we are, and now we've got to figure it out. But I'm using it as a next 5-year run because to say, let's do it for 1 more year and then see, I know you'd start to cut corners. I know any small business that does that wouldn't be fully invested in their success. So I think you need to think about it on long-term horizons. I'm sure plenty of people that have been on this couch would say the same thing. They're not thinking, can I just make enough to get to Christmas and then we'll have a big Christmas? I mean, you really need to have a longer vision, I think.
So how do you determine your 5-year plan? What are some of the things that you consider?
I mean, that's a great question. That's what I'm waking up this morning thinking about. I just told you I've got this idea in mind for how the pepper sauce could really take off. And in the parking lot downstairs, I got an email that the hot sauce ingredients that we use, the prices are going up. So right there, I've got to navigate the cost of goods sold increasing for the hot sauce. So it's a classic example, right? I'm super excited about it. And then the realities are, because hot sauce is so popular, prices on peppers are increasing. It's inflation in 2022 hit us harder than the pandemic. We had a 22% increase on all the ingredients that go into our salsa, in one day. And so, you can build a 5-year plan, but you're also going to realize, how many things might stand in your way. Some could be opportunities, but when I built the business plan in the spring of 2019, it didn't have a pandemic in it, and it didn't have inflation. More than the likes we've seen in a long time in this country. So we've come through those things and figured it out, but we'll see what's to come for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. So outside of business and all of that stuff, what do you enjoy doing? Doesn't sound like you have a ton of downtime, but I could be wrong.
No, I would say anything to do with kind of fellowship and bringing people together.
Okay.
Our one of our taglines when we bought the business was, Screamin Mimi's brings people together, right? Whether it's game days, tailgates, holidays. I mean, because that's how our family experienced the salsa. It was more than just the product. It was, if Screamin Mimi was being served, I knew my parents were having a party, or Kentucky was on, or people were coming over, right? And for me, that's kind of what I seek in life. Whether it's UK games, football or basketball, whether it's, weddings and events, it's just bringing people together. My wife and I do a lot of hosting at our house. We like a full house. We like bringing people together.
Yeah.
So that's really what drives me. In my day job, I do a lot to bring people together, whether it's at meetings or conferences or events. With Screamin Mimi's, you're always kind of doing something that brings people together, like a tailgate, or a music event or a holiday market. So that's probably, I've never been asked it that way, but that would probably be my thought is anything that's just bringing a couple people together. And, sometimes that's a disservice because I'm not the first person to leave a party ever. I'm not the person that says no to the fun lunch or the happy hour, right? I just really enjoy that kind of camaraderie and fellowship. Yeah. And so that's probably where we spend most of our time. And my wife is very similar in that, just enjoying being around people. We're both pretty extroverted. Cool. And so we're always looking to get out in the world. Yeah. We don't do a lot of kind of quiet movie nights at our house. Yeah. They're never going to be quiet anyway. So
not with
I'm not going to hear kids. I'm not going to hear the movie anyway.
I just had a random thought. What's like maybe the most off the wall kind of marketing thing that you've thought of, whether you did it or not, but you had the idea of like, I kind of want to do this.
Yeah. That's a great question.
Or I wish I could do X, Y, Z.
No, I mean, we were talking about Hot Ones when we were setting up, and people ask me about Shark Tank all the time, which seems totally intimidating. But, I don't know. That's a fun thing to think about in this next 5-year chapter. Mm-hmm. We've had some fun with Kentucky. Probably the best way I could think about it is like on our gift set, it says everybody knows the best salsa comes from Kentucky. Mm-hmm. Well, that's totally not true, right? No one aligns Kentucky and salsa. Maybe Texas or New Mexico or whatever, but we've had a lot of fun with kind of playing in and out of Kentucky. I think I know this community pretty well, the values of the people here. I think this is such a great town to be in. Yeah. And so if it was, to answer your question, if it was something, it would be something that was playful with this area. Yeah. I think what I would love to do, now you've got me going, I would love to partner with the bourbon industry. I'd love to partner with the horse industry. You think about, we had UK Athletics. The other two industries that own this area are bourbon and horses. When I do travel around the country and people find out I'm from Kentucky, what do you think the first two things they bring up are, right?
Bourbon and horses.
Bourbon and horses. So maybe there's a plan where we could do like a bourbon-based product. I mean, that would be pretty cool. That's certainly popular these days.
Do you ever play with the label?
What do you mean?
So one of my clients and friends is Doodles by Rebecca. It's a company out in Bardstown. Okay. And Rebecca Eisen, she's an artist. So basically she's drawing on an iPad and putting it on products and doing all sorts of stuff. And we had like a 2.5 hour just like brain dump of ideas. Yeah. One idea, and I like to think big. I don't care how big, just to say we had the thought. I was like, wouldn't it be cool to approach somebody like Domino's and like your doodles are all over the Domino's boxes. You take the most mundane kind of part of the pizza experience. You can't really dress up the pizza, but you could take the box and do something that's fun in a limited time or, geographically specific or whatever. So it's like, I don't know. Can you do something with the labels? It's more of like a dressed up, like around Keeneland and that sort of thing, and that kind of collaboration. And they can put that in all the tables in Keeneland or something. And Mark is using that in his stuff.
Sounds like you want to work for us this summer. No, it's a great.
That's how I think.
It's a great idea. We have done like stickers or wraps that go on the jars. Mm-hmm. A revenue stream we haven't talked about is corporate giving. So we have larger employers that will place a huge order and give it to their employees as like an appreciation gift, or give it to their clients as an law firms, professional services firms, accounting firms, insurance agencies that will give to their employees or their clients. And we have done like custom stickers or label hooks for them, but we've never actually done anything on our actual label. But you raise a good idea. I mean, that's the kind of thinking we need the next 5 years. Being at Keeneland on the tables, right? Being at
I'll take 15%.
At a Woodford, at a Woodford Reserve or a Buffalo Trace, those partnerships I would like to pursue more. Mm-hmm. But as you know, that's going to take just a relationship and alignment. We're not going to stroke the biggest check they've ever seen to do that. It's going to take someone kind of believing in us and wanting to support our products. Mm-hmm. And that's possible.
I just think of, you put the jar out there and the aesthetic experience that a lot of people want to have at a party, whether it's a derby party or a birthday party or something else. If you had a label that like a premium looking candle versus something that wasn't so premium and looked like Yankee Candle, like that kind of
or anything to stand
comes
out.
to my mind.
Anything to stand out. I mean, and that's part of what I think is going to be really critical for us.
Yeah.
Not just to survive, but to be successful is if we're going to spend that kind of money, it's got to be smart dollars, and it's got to unlock what I said earlier, which is translating to people actually buying. All the time it just happened in the coffee shop downstairs. Someone saw our logo and was like, "Oh, Screamin Mimi's." And I'm like, "That's great. Have you ever had it?" And they haven't had it. So they know us, but they haven't tried it. I've got to change that dynamic, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people that come up to us have tasted it, but there's plenty of people that know us as like a Lexington product and they see us around town because I think we're out there hustling and doing all the right things, but they haven't actually tried the salsa. So how do we
think
convert
is that
them?
barrier?
I don't know.
I mean, they know the name, right?
Yeah, I think it's probably either they've been eating us for 30 years, like my family. We have plenty of people that come up to us at tastings and they've been enjoying the product forever.
But that person in the coffee shop,
it's
we
the
know
newer
about
customers.
you, but I haven't had you.
And that's I don't know that. I'm guessing that guy's 25 years old, right? That's the challenge in this next couple of years is, so he's now seen us, which means we're doing a great job of marketing and social media. Yeah. I'm assuming he saw us on Instagram or something. Yeah. Or in the aisles. But it's
replacing. And it's a great name too, by the way. It's something that's not forgettable.
My mom's name is actually Mimi, which is really fun.
That's funny.
Probably why she originally bought it 30 years ago when she saw it in the aisle. She probably thought it was a cute coincidence. Yeah. But
she was like, I was screaming at these kids just 25 minutes ago at home.
The only two things we didn't change when we bought the company were the name and the recipe.
Yeah.
Everything else we changed. So I was very in love with the name, obviously. To the guy downstairs, that example, it's going to take him replacing whatever salsa he's been eating for the last 20 years and picking ours up. And I don't know if he's been eating another, Tennessee or Indiana salsa, or if he's just been eating Tostitos. Yeah. Or something else, but it's going to take obviously replacing that incumbent and having him buy Screamin Mimi's. I believe once he buys it the first time, he'll never buy anything else again. But it's
to get that moment to happen.
But it's that conversion. And so that's something we've got to really focus on.
Do you have any data on what that looks like? The number of people that return after trying it once or twice, or we know after 3 times we've got them hooked.
Yeah, we do have that data on the website, right? Because with Shopify, we can track all of that. So we can see how that builds itself, and it's pretty fun to watch. Like a first order in February, a second order in March, and then orders for like 15 months in a row or whatever it is. We the groceries are a little harder to track. The distributors that we work with, we have all that data from them, and so they can show us how much they've bought, where it's going, like Louisville, Lexington, Bowling Green, what stores it's going in, what stores it's doing better in, like Kentucky Kroger on Euclid, for example. It's one of our best stores. It's the heart of our customer base. It's the heart of our company the last 31 years.
What are they doing differently?
Nothing. It's just people I think know we're there. They know they can find us. It's reliable. It's centrally located. They pop in there and they grab it on their way to Commonwealth or whatever they're doing. Yeah. And so, we do better there than like a more rural Kroger, Whole Foods at the Summit, we do really well there. Think about that Summit area. Think about all the businesses and all the people that are attracted out there for lunch or dinner. And so they're seeing our products more and more. So, we're making strides on that and that conversion, but, we got to keep going. It can't just all be marketing and fun, right? At some point, someone's got to.
I'm just kidding.
At some point, somebody's got to buy the jar.
Yes,
and eat
at
it.
some point.
Yeah, we have really good friends that I look up to. Jack Rudy in town. You probably have had some of Jack Rudy's products, and they're about 5 years ahead of us on their journey. I don't know exactly, but let's say they're 12 years into their journey. And they're really good at this dynamic of figuring out that balance of marketing and sales. And we've learned a lot from them. And it's a different industry, but it's still a consumer product. It's in the beverage space. Yeah. It's a premium product. They do some really cool differentiation items in their product set. And so we need to keep building our own stable of people that will help us navigate this next 5 years. I kind of feel like maybe you're hearing some of that from me. I feel like we've made it to base camp. Like we've survived. We didn't fall off the mountain yet, but we're still just at base camp. Like we're still just sort of, kind of stretching and figuring out what the climb up the real peak's going to look like.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we are. So
isn't that wild? How do I want to say this? Almost like the perception that we have of brands, and a lot of times because it's a product on the shelf, we don't necessarily see a face in it.
Yeah.
We just see brand. I don't know how to say what I'm trying to say. Like, I would imagine you look at Screamin Mimi's on a shelf and you're like, wow, they're in Kroger. Must be doing great.
Yeah.
And obviously doing well. But like you just said, we're just at base camp, It's hard to know, like, where's that company actually at? You know what I mean? Even if it's Tostitos, it's like they could be drowning and nobody knows because the meetings aren't open to the public. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of interesting how we can operate kind of in the shadows behind things and elevate ourselves in moments where maybe we're not as far down the road as we wish we were. Maybe prop ourselves up when we're
fake it till you make it.
It's making kind of some sense what I'm saying.
The way I think about it is other entrepreneurs, other small business owners, the word that always comes to mind is authentic. And it's okay to fake it till you make it. It's okay if I walk into UK Athletics and I'm presenting that we're much bigger than we are to try to get the best opportunities we can. But to do that with you, to do that with other small business owners, people can pick up on that. And I think it's a little off-putting. And so I think it's important to be vulnerable and authentic about where you really are. And I was thinking about this morning coming on the show, using this show as like a commercial for our company seems like a disservice to you and your audience, right? To come in here and just sort of bluster about all this cool stuff we do, but not be more authentic about it. And I think I don't know that I've ever put that in words like that, but you were struggling with your question, and that's kind of what triggered in my mind of this experience has taught me that lesson of people know what's real or not, and they're really going to know once they actually try your product. So if I go say all this stuff, but then you eat it and you're like, that's not sweet heat. That's not really what Kentucky's all about. That's not, then you're not going to buy us. And so what's the point of me doing the commercial if it doesn't align with what I actually think the experience is going to be? And I do think we've done a good job of aligning that. The way we talk about it, the things we care about, our values as a company, I do think translate when people actually eat it. I do think game days are happening. I do think it's being served at tailgates. Like I believe in all that because I see it as well. And we do it with our family. And so I think the closer you can stay to that kind of true north, hopefully the better you'll be. I think people respond better to it. You can always get lucky once, but then they could be like, well, that was just a bunch of BS. I'm not gonna continue to work with that company.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy. With what you were just talking about, I had this thing come in my mind, not a specific example, but sometimes we'll get a restaurant that'll open, for example, and people hype it up the whole time it's being built and everything, and line out the door on opening day, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing. And then you go in and you're like, wow, this place looks great. And then you eat the food and you're like, But then they also still give them a pass.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that moment to me is very intriguing. Why? We got all this hype up front. We came in, the place is aesthetically beautiful or whatever, maybe some great service, but then you eat the food and it's okay. But then we give it a pass and we still continue to hype the place up like it's a big deal. And to me, it's like that social component, because everybody else thinks it's great. I guess I have to as well.
Yeah.
Even though my experience doesn't necessarily match that.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring my experience to fool myself into agreeing with the masses. I find that to be interesting.
I think probably the business trait or characteristic I admire the most is longevity, right? Yeah. And that's why I'm talking about the next 5 years, not the next 5 months.
Yeah.
And if you look at some of the best businesses out there, large or small, having that long game plan or mindset is really important. For example, my family has a 106-year-old insurance agency here in town.
Wow.
My dad and uncle are there. My brothers, my cousin, they're, been in the community for 106 years, right? Yeah. That kind of longevity is admirable. It's super cool to think about how many people they've helped in this community. Mm-hmm. Again, like we were saying, it's not about salsa. It's not about insurance. Yeah. They're just involved in the business community. They're supporting a lot of great initiatives around here, and they've been doing it for a long time. Well, I really look up to that. So I think about, not that Screamin Mimi will be a 100-year company, but why not think about it that way? Why not try to make decisions on, instead of being a flash in the pan and getting lucky for one summer or one quarter of financials, try to make responsible decisions that are just building blocks. But that takes a lot of patience, right? And how many entrepreneurs do you know? I'm sure all those Shark Tank people and everybody else, they were doing stuff in the shadows for years and no one cared.
Yeah.
And then it finally arrived, or they got to the top of the mountain, to use my analogy earlier. Yeah. And then the world noticed, right? Mm-hmm. So I think we have avoided some of that quick hit publicity. Not that we shouldn't get some of it, and some of it's good at times. I think we've tried to be a little more long game in our mindset.
Yeah. Definitely seems like a little bit of a dance of the long game versus short game,
And turning down opportunities sometimes where you could probably stretch and write that check to get your logo, on the website or the partnership or whatever, and realizing, it's not, the ROI is not going to be there. It's too much money for us right now. Let's keep that in the hopper for the future. Yeah. And see what we can do. So it's always trying to balance that. Right. You got to win now, but I also want to make sure we can stay around.
Yeah. I'm curious from your perspective as we wrap up too.
Sure.
My brain's just in such like a marketing mode at the moment. From where you guys are today, is it easier or better to give free products to people as part of the marketing and awareness? Like whether that's, hey, influencer, take this and make some content, or is it easier to pay them?
I think it's been a better fit for us to just give it.
Yeah.
I brought you some today. I mean, we have tried to, we have tried, not that we haven't done some influencer generated content where there might be a nominal charge. Even then, we're giving them the product for free.
Yeah.
And because we want more customers more than we think about just more visibility. Right. Visibility will drive customers, but if you're an influencer and you've got 15,000 followers on Instagram and you post about us, that's amazing. And more people are going to see who we are, but they're all not going to
coffee shop,
but they're all not going to go immediately run to Kroger and buy it. And so we want those actual individuals to become raving fans so that they will then naturally post or promote it or think about it or buy it themselves. So I'd rather pick up the customer in the long run than just do the one-time post. Yeah. And so a lot of that is more transactional. And this goes to what we were talking about, the long game. Mm-hmm. I think about it more philanthropically, right? Not that we're saints, but it's like, if I could get that person to then buy it the rest of their lives, that's worth more to me than that one post. Yeah. Not that I don't love the post, right? Don't get me wrong, but so we do a ton of giveaways around town. I mean, a ton of it. And
what's that look like when you say a giveaway?
We have this little gift bag that we have generated. We also have the gift box that has our logo on it and stuff. Stickers, chip clips. We'll take it to any market, any farmer's market, anything that's happening around town. In Lexington, as you know, you could spend every Saturday and Sunday going to a different market. Yeah. It's pretty fun right now. I don't know that we had that when I was a kid. And
there's a new one about to open in the warehouse block on Tuesday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we would do sampling, free samples at that. We will also sell the product, but you don't have to buy it to get a free sample.
Right.
The hope is you try it, you're kind of moseying around the marketplace, and you work your way back to us and buy it. Yeah. And so we do a lot of that type of combination of free sampling with actual point of sale.
Yeah. Do you find that a farmer's market audience translates to in-store audience?
I think it has.
Or if I buy it at the farmer's market, do I expect to only get it there and not go to Kroger?
That's an insightful comment. Yeah. I mean, like Critchfield is one of our best spots. You have all 4 of our products are in Critchfields, which again, been in the community for 70 years, great reputation and brand. they do markets out in front of their store.
Right. Yeah.
That to us is probably the best combo, because you'll see us at their market, and then when you go back to shop, you'll see us on the shelves.
You walk in the door and there we are.
And there we are. So that oftentimes, that combination can be really, really helpful. Mm-hmm. We still will do all the holiday markets and all the other farmers market things, but we're not going to then be at that market every Sunday. You're not going to be able to buy us every Sunday. So it will take you going into the stores. Now we have these little cards that we created, right, that we hand out. It shows Critchfield's, Kroger, Whole Foods, Publix, Good Foods Co-op. It shows all the stores, and your hope is they're just going to follow up.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of it's hope, right?
Yeah.
You do it and then you wait.
But that was
you
our
look for the data.
As I said, when we bought the company, we knew it was a crowded field, but we didn't see anyone out there hustling and in the community in the way that we envision and imagine we could be.
Yeah.
So hopefully we've backed that up by being out there a lot.
Yeah. It'd be cool to see the SAS team. Here you go, Miranda. Here's free idea. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think you guys have done this. Like go downtown and do like taste tests and stuff.
Like walking around downtown?
Yeah. Like on video. Like just roll up to somebody at lunchtime down
the
at
Jimmy Kimmel on the streets.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah. The Billy Eichner kind of situation almost, right? Yeah. Like, heck, next time you do an NIL thing with a women's basketball player, like have them over your shoulder and like, have you seen the episodes where they're like talking about Will Ferrell and they're like, do you know Will Ferrell? He sucks, doesn't he? And they're like having this conversation. Will's right here and they're not paying any attention.
Yeah.
You know, like anyway, but the taste test thing.
No, that's right.
You know, you're down there. It's boots on the ground. It's 1-to-1, of course. So that's hard.
But certainly that pavilion area would be pretty fun.
It,
yeah.
You know, we're here. We're in a familiar spot. Oh, this looks familiar to me. Oh, they're eating this stuff. Okay, here's some feedback.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Miranda, write that down.
Yeah.
No, that's a great idea.
Fun things. I don't know.
I kind of feel like no one else in our competitive space would do that. So why not us is kind of a response I would have to that. Yeah. It's like, we'll try that. I mean, we will give away some stuff if it is for the right reasons. And I think that's a pretty thoughtful one. Yeah.
I mean, it just seems like, like you said, faking it till you make it. So, okay, what is Tostitos doing that we need to do to make sure that we're here too? You know what I mean? But then also, what can we do because we can be nimble? Yeah. And we kind of have to be because we need more awareness than we have. You know what I mean? They already got the awareness. You don't have as much. Yeah. We need to fill that gap.
Yeah. Between now and our Super Bowl ad, we need to figure something out.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny. Well, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate the gift basket. Is this the one, the sweeter, hotter?
So that's the medium. That's the medium. Yep.
Is that what should go on eggs?
The hot sauce should go on eggs in the morning. We put on our eggs every morning.
Okay. Yeah. But it's not hot. It's got
basically
a little heat.
We call it sweet with a kick of heat.
Yeah.
Is how we think about it. So, but appreciate you having me. This has been a lot of fun, and thank you for your support. Good. Yeah, of course. And okay, so obviously Kroger, Good Foods Co-op, all those things, Whole Foods can catch you at some farmers markets. What's the website in case anybody wants to do something with ScreaminMimis.com. Okay, easy enough. Well, I really appreciate your time, Webb. Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.